Consider your
Gotta keep the computer muted.
My bad.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm calling to order the meeting of the Halton Police Board for Thursday, June 26, 2025. And before we get into the actual meeting itself, I'd like to read a territorial acknowledgement that the Halton Police Board acknowledges the land on which we gather for this meeting as the treaty territory of the Mississauga of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Huron-Wendat, and Anishinaabe. And that our origins, our lives are intertwined to the shared earth beneath us, the water we consume, and the air that we breathe. As those responsible for the governance of the security of all who gather on this land, we now call Halton. We are committed to the path of truth and reconciliation in our words and in our actions, and call on those watching this meeting to do the same. Madam Committee Board Secretary, do we have any regrets today?
We have no regrets.
I'll just note that we do have one empty chair. We're still waiting for the province to appoint a replacement for our friend Kurt Allen, whose appointment ended in April. Members of the board, do you have any disclosures of conflicts or pecuniary interests declared today? Your minutes from the previous meeting held on Thursday, May 22nd have been circulated. Is there a motion to approve those minutes available? Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Nav. Any comments, questions, errors, or omissions? All in favor? Those are carried. Members of the board, we do have two presentations today. 2.1 is Operation Northern Exposure, and 2.2 is the 2024 annual report. And I believe that Chief Tanner will be joining us on Zoom for the annual report. But we'll get started with a presentation of Operation Northern Exposure.
Good morning. Through the chair. Good morning. At your request, we've arranged this morning for a presentation on the latest version of Northern Exposure. I'm going to introduce some folks as they're arriving up to the podium. First up is Sergeant Amy McGuire from our People, Culture and Wellness Unit. Amy was the coordinator of the program this year in terms of the recruitment, programming, planning, and monitoring of the program. Also joining us is Staff Sergeant Jeff Foster. Jeff is a Uniform Patrol Supervisor Manager in Burlington. Jeff is one of the participants this year. And also joining us is PC Nadia Carl. Nadia is from Burlington Patrol as well. And Nadia was also one of the participants. So they're going to give you a brief overview of their experiences and how it has impacted them and in the service. So I'm going to turn it over to Amy first, followed by the others.
Morning, thanks for having us. We won't take too much of your time, but it's certainly important to let you know what this experience is like for our officers. I think there is definitely a benefit to both NAPS and the Halton Regional Police Service, but for the Halton Regional Police Service, predominantly what you get from this experience and what these officers have brought back is the fact that their cultural competence in terms of the Indigenous community has certainly increased. They've been exposed to things that they were not aware of, and seeing them firsthand is life-changing in terms of how they view the communities when they come back. And also they're able to share with the officers that they work with every day, which in turn affects their abilities to properly, combat and respond to Indigenous communities within Halton, and the long-term effects that, have been brought forward throughout the lives of these people. I'll stop there and I'll let the officers give the presentation. Thank you.
Wherever you need to, you can stay here. That's great. So, you're okay.
Morning, Board, Deputies. My name is Jeff Foster, Staff Sergeant in Burlington, and this is Constable Nadia Clark. She's Constable in Burlington as well. So we both had the opportunity to attend the third leg of Northern Exposure, the third year, and participate along with the other services that joined in, not at our time, but Peel and York sent officers as well. With Halton ourselves, we had a 2-week deployment of 6 officers. Just to give a perspective, various level of policing experience that we brought up to the communities we served in. So most junior officer would be Nadia here at about, and then myself bringing 28 years experience up north. Our visit was from March 25th to April 7th, and even though we all went up north, we split up and 2 officers went to each different communities and shared the perspective of what it was like in each of the communities we went with. So this is our Halton contingent here that had attended. Just some perspective, we left from Barrie and had to take our flight from Barrie to Fort Albany, and then after spending a couple of days in Fort Albany, which I'll get to in a few minutes, we divided up into 3 separate communities: Fort Albany, Kashechewan, and Attawapiskat. And there's our flight view, and it's amazing when you're up there. I had never been that far up north, at just how much water there is, the rivers everywhere, and those rivers actually play a role in their culture for major transportation routes and such. Each of the communities that we were in was about 2,000 people. So Fort Albany about 2,000, Kashechewan around.
It was about 1,900.
And Attawapiskat about 1,500 or 1,600 people, and that's on average because it's a very transient community with individuals going on hunting trips and stuff outside. You want to talk about our orientation?
Yeah, so the first 2 days are meant for learning. So we were given the opportunity to learn from Chief Terry Meta Tawabin, and he had just spoke about the culture, the traditions, the history, and then especially the impact of residential schools. We did a tour of the communities as well, which was quite nice. We got to have a nice in-depth tour of going along the ice roads and going into different communities such as mine, which was Kashechewan, so that was quite nice.
And in the 2-day orientation, there was a lot of sharing circles and for Deputy Chief Meta-Tawabin. He shared what the residential school impact had on himself, family members, friends, people that still live in the community right now. So that was an eye-opening experience for us to get to real stories from individuals who experienced it. We talked about the rivers, and along with the rivers, basically the ice roads. This is their bloodline. It was interesting to drive along a road of ice for 45 minutes or so to get from one community to another. The only way you can get from Fort Albany to Kashechewan is by the ice road, unless it's summertime, then you could take a boat, supposedly. But other than the ice roads, flying is your only other option. So these roads are crucial, and there's a picture of us standing out in the middle of Fort Albany, or Albany River, and you're just thinking, I don't know how deep this is right now, but I'm sitting out with the trucks, and it's obviously very safe. It's their main routes, and transportation, like trucking, transport trucks are bringing supplies in all winter long because they got to stock up for when those roads thaw out, and then they're back to just a fly-in community, basically. But the problem also is the ice road creates mobility, and with that, people can bring in stuff that they don't want in the communities, and so vehicles can come and go as they please with loads of alcohol or drugs that are brought in from outside places. This is a typical image that when you go around town and you drive and you see the housing and the structures and the way that people have set it up. Lots of questions we could ask, and that was great to get firsthand experience from people to say, hey, why does everyone or majority of people have like a teepee on their property? Is that a cultural thing? Like, is it religious in nature? And really it boils down to like practicality, that they hunt and they smoke. They smoke the meat that they hunt, and that's why a lot of them have this on their property. So lots of questions we could ask as we were driving around town. You want to speak with the dogs?
Yeah, dogs are pretty much everywhere. It was just entertaining because people, I think you had the experience where people were always walking around with sticks or hockey sticks, and we kept wondering, oh, are you guys going to a game? And it's to fend off the dogs as they come around. So they're kind of a normal thing, and they're kind of everywhere. Some of them are good, and some of them, they don't like you, so that's fine.
Some are pets that stay outside. Some, like, they just come and go as they please to the owner's house. Some are completely wild that roam around, and you never know what you're going to get when you go to a call or you're just walking down the street. I asked about jogging in town, and they said, absolutely do not go jogging. You'll have 15 dogs chasing you. So didn't do that. And we had one of our officers get bit up there as well. One of the NAPS officers had to go to the hospital for some stitches because when you're wrestling with somebody or trying to defeat the situation, the dogs don't know what's going on. They get all excited and they just start getting into the melee there. Everywhere when you come into the property, this is a big thing, the signs prohibiting drug and alcohol use, making it known right off the bat. That played a role later on in our trip. But yeah, we obviously abided by that full-heartedly, and everyone up there, not so much. It still makes it into their community, but they're trying their best. Want to speak about the Northern store? Big thing.
So a big thing was the Northern store. That's your everything. That's your catch-all. You can buy ATV, you can get gas, you can get a watermelon, you can go and basically it's kind of like an old school Walmart, how it used to be. My reserve had a Tim Hortons, which was the talk of the town. We had people coming from Fort Albany to get a cup of coffee, and that was just kind of like your regular, it was a different type of Tim Hortons, but it was kind of a self-serve Tim Hortons, but it was definitely a nice piece of home.
Yeah, like a meeting hub. People drive 45 minutes to go get a coffee at Tim Hortons. Up in Attawapiskat, I had the Northern with a KFC and a Pizza Hut, but it was like almost $40 for a pizza at the Pizza Hut there, and very expensive, obviously, for the transportation, getting the goods in. But that's your go-to store, which was quite entertaining. The Nishnawbe Oskee Police Service, everyone just calls it NAPS, basically. It's a short, abbreviated word. I didn't really know the scope of the area that they covered in Ontario when I went up to Attawapiskat. We were just in 3 small communities, but just from this map, you can see the area that they cover north of Thunder Bay, basically province-wide, east to west, and there's got to be about 30 different detachments that they're responsible for looking after, all being reserve land, and OPP taking care of the area outside of it. But logistically, it was, I couldn't imagine dealing with the facilities, the supplies, the officers, because all these officers, if there's no roads, they have to be flown in for their deployments. So ourselves, we worked a 2-week on, 2-week off rotation when we got there. This was the Attawapiskat detachment. That's all you got. It basically had 4 computers, about 6 cells, a kitchenette, and a bathroom. That was the whole station. There was a garage there. The officers themselves are responsible for everything. They have to clean. They have to do the laundry for the prisoners. The maintenance on the vehicles, like there's only the officers that are there that can do it. You want to see what Saskatchewan was like for the station?
It was pretty similar. So basically, we kind of had a gym. That was the only difference for us. But yeah, like she had said, we basically did everything there. It was stocking up the supplies, doing the laundry, cleaning the cells, and that was just kind of a regular thing that they are known to do. They upkeep their vehicles. They're kind of like a all-in-one officer there. So.
It was interesting too. Everything is ice, like with the vehicles and traffic. So you get out of the vehicle and you just always are cautious of where you step because so many of us went down on the ice. It's literally being on an ice rink for most of the winter. And then outside of the community, so our communities are a couple of square kilometers each town, and you can only patrol that so much, so we would go off the reserve and just take these roads, whether they were ice roads or not, and you could drive for quite some distance, and this is us from Attawapiskat. We drove out to James Bay just to see what it would be like at the mouth of the Attawapiskat River, but environmentally very beautiful out there. So just getting into now our deployment, I'll let Nadia speak about her place, but I was in Attawapiskat. 5 officers work at a time, 1 sergeant and 4 constables. They do a 2-week rotation, so they fly in on a Tuesday, and then 2 weeks later they fly out again. It was interesting, some of the officers that I worked with up there were from, one was from Burlington, so they have to drive to Sudbury to get on the plane to do their 2-week deployment and do the whole thing back again. Other officers lived in Ottawa and Toronto and such, so not all the officers were First Nation officers. Some were, I had 2 in my group, but others were not. So when you got there, you work 1 week of days and you work 1 week of nights. You have a 12-hour shift. There's a little bit of a different schedule there for turnover, but tons of overtime because there's only 5 officers present. If 3 calls come in at once or calls needing a couple officers to deal with, they just take you from the police house that you stay in and you just go back on duty again. So it's no time off. In those 2 weeks, you're continuously working. If you're not working, you're sleeping. You get a couple hours to rest, but absolutely no days off. And I don't know if you found the exact same thing.
Yeah, it was pretty much the same. For my detachment, we only had 3 officers and then us supplemented to 5. My sergeant was 8 years on. The experience kind of ranged. For the most part, everybody, like in terms of the officers, were under 4 years. And again, they were from all different areas, Mississauga, Toronto. And then the issue with the overtime was just because there's not enough people to kind of supplement the CLU or like the lockup. But other than that, it was, they did a good job in rotating us and making sure we did a 1 week of days and then 1 week of nights in a transition.
And you see, the most senior officer that we had up there was 8 years on. That was our most junior officer that we brought up north with us. So like when they heard that I had 28 years, they didn't understand that. They were at a loss. All the other officers that I was working with outside the sergeant had less than 2 years experience. So that's how junior the officers are that are on their own too. They are by themselves, 5 officers look after that community for 2 weeks. They have supports from their headquarters and such. They have their investigators, but they're not present with them at the time. It's just those 5 officers that are there. If they do need a tactical deployment, if they do need more senior investigators and stuff, those people have to come there about 2 hours away if the plane was sitting ready to go. So there's no real backup. You're the backup. And for those officers that are up there with the winter, they might stay 2 weeks, but if 3 days of bad weather come in, then they're up there for 17 days because they can't bring in the new officers with the risk for flying in, so you don't know how long actually you're going to be there, and you might have to stay longer. This was my group, so the sergeant was the fellow on the left, Adam Cooper, and then everyone else, other than Dave Rivers, who's with Halton in the middle, are the junior officers there with each less than 2 years. So just to kind of pull things together, what did we get out of this? What was the exchange benefits? Well, we could share experience and perspectives. Obviously, with them having just a few years on the job, they didn't deal with a large variety of calls. So they would always ask us, what would you guys do in this situation? When I was up there, they did their very first break and enter. They'd never done a break and enter call before, and that's like in 2 years. And so it was a big thing to do a break and enter investigation, but it's a small town, and not a lot of people, will break into other people's businesses or houses. We learned a different approach and style to community engagement up there. They are talkers. Like, they talk to everyone. They spend time with people. They de-escalate. Multiple reasons. First off, you can't be up there and put in a full enforcement type attitude because the band council won't want you there. You have to be fair. You have to treat people with respect. So communication was key, and policing was way more personal. So they would arrest the person, and the next day you see the person at the northern store, and you say hi to them, because you cross paths with so many people and deal with the same people over and over again. And if something gets really bad, they were talking about a situation where they had a suicidal male, and there was a group of 30 people from town that were trying to assist, and they were in the middle of trying to deal with the suicidal male, but the people in town wanting to also get involved in the call, and there's only like 4 or 5 officers. So at any time, the community could be also your backup if something were to go wrong, and having that respect with the community, you could rely on that, actually, them helping you. Do you want to add anything for the benefits?
I think it's just a different experience to see it firsthand. To see the community engagement and how crucial that is and how much it plays a role. Like, I feel like here it's a bit, you don't see too many one-on-ones, like the same people all the time. There, it was like night and day. It was, you were seeing the same people, you were dealing with the same people every day. The same person you said hello to in the morning, you might have had to deal with and get a witness statement from them later on in the evening. So community engagement plays like a huge role, especially with this community.
And the officers do their part as well, and we participated as well. It was a video, but I didn't want to play it. But the fellow that I was with, Dave Rivers, he went tobogganing with the kids. He won, actually, too. He's a pretty big guy. But yeah, we just had a lot of fun with the community when we were there. We brought up one of the people on our group had a contact for Nestle, I think it was, or candy. We brought a lot of candy with us, and we were driving around the trucks giving out candies to the younger kids. Tobogganing. We had a pizza day where the officers were giving out pizzas. They try and really, what's that?
Bracelets, we're giving out bracelets.
Trying to really get the policing brought down to a personal level where everyone felt comfortable with us being there, and certainly the officers did that work there as well. These are just opinions that I saw when Nadia saw up there too. Like, what I saw in terms of challenges, like the isolation will play a role. You're really secluded. The climate plays a role. It was minus 30 when I was up there for a few days, and yeah, it's a tough climate to live in, and a lot of people are just out there working on their trucks and stuff in minus 25-degree weather with no gloves on. Like, you just have to deal with the weather. There's few things to do. The town had a recreational center, but there's no movie theater. There's only one store. Boredom seems to set in. You're driving the same roads all the time, so that's another factor they deal with. With the youth that I experienced, when we had some mental health calls, they felt like their future was limited in terms of opportunities, and trying to share that they have a future if they wish to go out and explore it. But that's just the general feeling I experience with a lot of people. There's obviously poverty, lack of employment opportunities. I asked, how do people work up here and keep themselves occupied with a job, and maybe a lot of them don't have employment like we have here. Alcohol and drugs are a big problem. When I say expensive, I talked about the pizza, but a 12-pack of Coke was $30, I think it was. Even meats were very expensive. And then on top of that, there's obviously a high suicide rate that they have to contend with as well, mental health issues. The band council, in terms of alcohol and drug enforcement, the band council has these community peacekeepers, they call them, and when a vehicle, if there's reason to believe a vehicle is carrying drugs or alcohol, they'll stop that vehicle as it enters onto the reserve land, and they'll search it without any cause. There's no real legal authority to search the vehicle other than you're entering private property. So it's their choice, and they do seize a lot of drugs and alcohol that way. They're trying to do their best to keep it out of the community, and it's not every vehicle that comes in. They have to have some intelligence or such that they know a vehicle has just left Moosonee and is bringing a load of alcohol from the LCBO or something. But once they seize it, it goes to the police station, and this was us in the cells, and we're just dumping it down the drains. They have searched homes before for if they believe that they're storing drugs or alcohol. Again, legalities I'm not going to get into. Police did not participate in any of these things. We were there more just to keep the peace, and this was between the residents, band council, and the peacekeepers. And this kind of sum it up. What did we learn? What did we bring back with us? First off, communication skills are vital. If you don't have communication skills up there, you're not to be a police officer in these communities. So being professional, polite, courteous, it goes a long way when you're dealing with the same people every day and you're trying to be frank and fair with them. We were able to talk to a lot of people and get perspective, the community members, band councils, and just understand those challenges that they face. If I could think of a solution, I wouldn't be here right now. There's no simple solution to make things better up there. It's such a integrated, faceted problem of the challenges that they face, and they just try their best to head that off, but they have a tough time, obviously. And in the end, and we've shared all these things with our platoons and other officers here in Halton, but putting it into perspective, we're very fortunate for everything we have, at least here in Halton, because from our geography, socioeconomic, the working conditions, the equipment that we're given, the training, it's an eye-opener. So there's absolutely no reason to complain about anything about being here in Halton or working for the Halton Police. Yeah, anything you wanted to add?
You've not told to say that.
Yes.
I have a question. Thank you again for the presentation. Very insightful and great to see that you were able to make impact and learn how they operate. You were sharing that a lot of the officers are commuting in. Do they work on how they can recruit within? Like, are they working with groups, like, you know, how we have recruitment events and stuff? I find that, like, you know, majority of them are flying in, but it would make more of an impact if there was a local youth that grew within that community and was able to, you know, join the service down the road. Are there any initiatives that you saw while you were down there?
I think that they have the same challenges in employing officers that most services are facing right now and getting quality candidates. There were individuals from communities, like First Nation communities, that did work with us, but they didn't live there. So whether they're trying to promote from within, I can't speak to, but if I were an officer that was living in, say, this Attawapiskat with a population of 1,500 people, and I'm there working for 2 weeks, you would never stop working, because even on your 2 weeks off, you would still be going into work and helping out and getting involved, and maybe there's a good benefit of being a little bit detached from your community for your sanity and mental and physical well-being. But some of the officers I worked with understand first-handedly, because they come from reserves as well, like First Nation communities. I hope that answers your question.
I can just top that up. So it's interesting that Anishinaabe Police Service is the first Indigenous service to actually opt into the new act. And as a result, the funding model has changed, and they're actually doubling their size. So they're actually adding 300 plus officers. So the recruitment question you asked is actually quite significant. They've done an amazing localized recruitment for NAPS strategy. But we're building upon that. I'm going to speak to a little bit later about the provincial recruitment campaign, but it is a challenge, and that the model seems to be their best avenue of pipelining people into those communities, because you see the map, it is such a huge geographical area, and there's a number of challenges, but they're working on it, and the OSCP is supporting them in that regard.
I just thought, like, even, you know, the individuals, because the tenure, I can see why the tenure is low. Like, you know, when you have a family and your children are growing, you're not going to want to be 2 weeks completely gone, right? So, I mean, if there's somebody who's maybe an hour drive or whatever, that might help have, like, more tenured officers stay longer, right?
Okay, next up is Samira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for this wonderful eye-opening presentation. I learned a lot, so thank you for that. My question was going to be if there's one thing that you would say needs to change immediately or one support that they need immediately, what would that be? But in the end, you did say that I don't know what the solution is, so I kind of got my response that way. So my next question would be, what role do women have in the whole cultural scenario? And what would you say, maybe the female officers can chime in, what roles, what can we do to encourage more female officers to join in? Would they even have a good impact? Because in all of these pictures, did not see a lot of women.
Yeah, these were, go back to what you see, a lot of the pictures were from my community that I served in, so I was only with those officers. There were female officers. I think Fort Albany did have a female officer. There were female officers in Attawapiskat assigned there. They were on their 2 weeks off when I was there, so they wouldn't be coming in. If you want to speak about
it's hard to answer that. I think it's just like an everywhere sort of issue, because again, we saw a lot of females in roles of power on the band council and in different areas, so that was always nice to see. But I think it was just like the areas and the rotation that we were on, because there were females on other detachments and other rotations. I just happened to be the only one on mine, but it was definitely interesting to see like the different roles that they play.
Thank you. Because as per my understanding, working with Indigenous communities in Halton, grandmothers have a great role to play in this culture. And I do feel that if our female officers are there in big or equal numbers, I think that will make a very good difference in kind of crossing those cultural barriers, women to women. And I know the grandmothers, and it's a very female patriarchal society, the Indigenous communities. I think that's an angle we can explore.
Yes, for sure. I think some of the challenges there to attract female officers, you have to live with the officers in a policing house for 2 weeks, and Nadia had to share accommodations with several male officers, whereas I was just with all males. So there were particular challenges with that side of it.
They're clean. That's what I learned. Boys are clean.
Thank you.
That's the most shocking revelation I've heard so far. Next up is Ingrid and Jane. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know that your experience was impactful and unforgettable. As I shared with the officers, I have had the distinct privilege of spending a lot of time in all of the communities, Attawapiskat, Fort Albany, Saskatchewan, and Moose. And it is a different culture. And to my colleague's point about the recruitment, the 2-and-2 rotation is really the only solution. There is no other solution than to have the fly-in and the fly-out opportunities. You are, as you saw from the map, extremely remote. Unfortunately, there's no possibility of driving close, hopping in a car and driving to one of the locations. I think the 2-and-2 is probably, there's no other alternative to it. And given the challenges that are there, the officers really enjoy the 2 weeks off to recharge the batteries, so to speak. And to Deputy Wilkie's point, we were at the OAPSB conference just recently in London, and we had a very passionate presentation from Grand Chief Mike Metatawabin. And he gave us a wonderful overview of what you're sharing with us today, the culture, the land, the expanse of the land, the turnover, and again, to Deputy Wilkie's point, yes, they are the first, NAPS are the first First Nations police service to come in under the CSPA, which is a big, big achievement. And he was saying to us, as a result of that, the recruitment will be improving. They do have more applicants. They do have a greater selection opportunity. So it's going in the right direction. But it will take a long time to change, especially from what I experienced.
Jane, you're next.
I just wondered, just listening to you, I mean, it's great, but my thing is do you ever look at like a mentorship, like a pen pal, I guess is what I'm asking? Because if you get one or two kids, like if I've lived in this environment and I've never been anywhere else and not having any exposure to anything, you can't, what you don't know, you don't know. So was there ever any opportunity to at least mentor one or two kids so that they can talk to, you know, other kids or other places to say, you know, this isn't our whole life here, just to get them on the next place to maybe move somewhere else or do something different?
I didn't see anything or had the experience to see that. I know that there are resources, like there's a lot of resources in those communities that are based out of the community center or the schools or the hospitals, and providing supports to individuals, career opportunities, that kind of thing. From the policing perspective, I know that the officers that were up there did pay particular attention to the youth and tried to build bonds with them and talk to them, so much so that the officers knew the kids by the first names and the kids called the officers by their first names, and they would see them quite a bit. And I think that showed them that they do have a future, and if they had questions or something like that, maybe even how did you become a police officer, they could share that. But in terms of exchange or pen pals or anything like that, I don't have an answer for that.
I don't have an answer. I think the continued community engagement, like I got to participate in, I drive around and I try to hand out little bracelets for the kids and sit down and talk with them, kind of like the same as my coworkers. But I think in terms of kind of creating that open line of communication for them to see us as individuals, not as police officers necessarily, I'm hoping that kind of made a good impact kind of going forward.
Yeah, because this is my last thought. You know, you're from here. There's so many opportunities here. So just, I say the pen pal just because it's the you know, easiest thing to say. But just give people when you don't know. Like if I grew up in that environment and that's what was there, you just become that culture because you don't know anything else, right? So I'm just giving people opportunities, and I say the pen pal just for an example. It's just even if one or two children or youth have an opportunity to, you know, mentor other people and move on, I just think it would be so advantageous. I appreciate all the things that you did when you were there, but it makes it great. Yeah, it's keeping it going, right, and where the next place can go.
Thanks, Jane. I have a question, and you can put your hand up, okay. I just have one comment and then a question. So the comment actually responds a little bit to what Jane said. So I'm involved in an organization called Hockey Cares. And Hockey Cares, I'm involved in a supportive way. I don't go to Attawapiskat, but it's an exchange program between kids in Oakville and kids in Attawapiskat. What they do is they go play, and they do it through the guise of hockey. So there's a hockey team from Oakville that goes to Attawapiskat, and all the kids from Attawapiskat come back to hockey to Oakville. And in fact, they arrive. The Attawapiskat away team arrives tonight for their exchange. And to Jane's point, I think a lot of that is not just hockey, it's mentoring. So they do tours on recruitment and jobs and such. Probably should have them drop by here as well at some point to learn a little bit about policing opportunities that exist. And then you mentioned a movie theater. Well, I happen to operate movie theaters. We bring them in for a show, and it's always interesting to be there and watch them as they see this big epic on a big screen. They're just blown away, and they come out and they're like, what the kids take for granted here. It's mind-blowing to see the response of these young folks have for us. So those opportunities exist in small ways, and we need to do more, obviously, as a society. My question, though, is, you had this opportunity to be away, and you had your opportunity to spend time in these communities. What do you bring back as a police? How has this changed your outlook as a police officer in the Halton community? What will you do differently? How do you process this?
I'd say the number one thing, and I've been sharing it with my officers on my platoon, is the community engagement, speaking to people one-on-one, listening to what they have to say, spending time with them, and really offering that level of service where it's more personal. That's what they do on a daily basis up there. And in a larger environment, in a larger city, we don't deal with these people. We're not going to see them again. We don't really understand their problem. Maybe some don't care about their problem as much. They genuinely bring a caring side to them because they see what they have to deal with on a daily basis, and they genuinely want to help the people, like especially with youth. So that was the biggest thing. And I was telling my officers, like, you got to talk to people more. You have to, if you just let them talk to you, you'll probably solve 90% of why you're there in the first place, as opposed to just quick reaction, get it done. Like they do not jump into any arrest situation unless it absolutely requires it. And a lot of the calls that they deal with, they just spend time with it and try and de-escalate. Arresting everyone for committing, whether it's a minor offense or not, is not your solution in that community. You can't just keep enforcing your way out of this problem. So understand that people have addictions and understand that they have, they're impaired or intoxicated every day, but understanding why that happens and seeing firsthand really brings a personal level. So that would be what I would say.
I think it's just different to learn about this, like when we were in school, you learn so much, and then to have a lived experience like this, I think it just puts things in perspective. Again, seeing it with my own eyes and interacting with it, that was huge for me, and that's what I brought back to a lot of my coworkers, is just the complexities and the different challenges that this community faces, and how good that we have it here, but what we can kind of try to do to help out. Again, like my coworker, my staff said, it's not a one quick fix sort of thing, but just a different perspective. And the community engagement side of things is huge. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from everything that I got to take away from.
I just thought of one more quick question. You may not be able to answer this because I know that the territory is so large and the civilian governance aspect of it probably is disparate from the local community. But did you encounter civilian governance at all while you're there? Like, as a police board, we supervise the service and we're the employer and such, and that exists now that they've adopted the CSPA as well up there. Did you see any evidence of that within the community, with local civilian representatives that you interacted with at all? And did you see how that worked in that context?
I don't know how NAPS works as itself in terms of a board of governance or anything like that, but I can say in Attawapiskat, there was huge connections to the band council and the officers, so much so that we were just at the station and the door would be a knock at the door, and it was the chief that just came by to talk about a problem to
the governance chief as opposed to the badge chief, right?
Yes, yeah, the band council chief, yeah, for sure. And that happened in Fort Albany as well, with the deputy chief giving us a couple of days of cultural immersion. So the band councils are directly involved in helping the police for the benefit of the community, basically. So there's a huge connection between them, and I was surprised to see how often we interacted with the band council on a daily basis.
Do you find that challenging, dealing with trying to synthesize that civilian component with what you're used to in this environment?
Well, it certainly makes you more flexible in terms of your response, because you get that opinion of what the band council believes is best for the community as opposed to just a policing type opinion. And so working together, and that's not just in policing, because they've also got their counselors, their equivalents of like, I can't remember the name of it, but their children's aid individuals. They work closely with the band council as well. Like, that was one of the calls that we had, was like a children's aid member, band council member came to the police department to talk about a particular family and share all the perspectives of what's the best course of action for this family. So, and it wasn't good. It wasn't challenging. It was very open. I actually didn't even know it was the chief of the band council when I was in the station, because she was talking to me so well and nobody introduced me. I just kind of walked into the conversation, and then afterwards she left and they said, "Oh, that was the chief." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, yeah, very nice woman."
Well, councillors from Burlington, you now can walk in and give him the right Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry, through the chair, I should have mentioned in my opening comments, I want to thank both these officers as well as the other four for the sacrifice. This was not a vacation for them. In the middle of winter, taking 2 weeks away from their family and friends to deploy for 2 weeks. You heard the conditions were very challenging that they were living under, working under. They knew that ahead of time, that this wasn't a shock to them. They were briefed by Sergeant McGuire ahead of time before they chose. They volunteered to do this event, to do this secondment. So I do want to acknowledge that this was a personal sacrifice and thank them both as well as the other officers.
I do want to acknowledge something you said. I was really happy to hear you say that both of you had asked you a question about what you bring back. Both of you talked about sharing your experience with your colleagues. And I think that's what this is largely about. And I'm so glad you said that unprompted. So thank you for that. And thank you for your stories today. It's always interesting to hear the feedback from our away teams. And please pass on our congratulations and thanks to your colleagues that joined you. I know it's just you the representative, so let them know that we appreciate that as well.
I think you deserve a round of applause.
Yeah, sure.
I'll tell you, the Northern Lights is spectacular up there, though. When you work a night shift and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you just take a look up in the sky and you see like this kind of images, it's heavenly.
Was the weather the worst thing?
Well, it wasn't. It was just cold. The cold is.
I was thinking about graduation and when Crystal was doing the recruiting, and the scripts was always they asked the recruits when they came back from OPP, what was the best and worst thing? What was the best and worst thing? Just curious.
Well, the cold is probably the worst thing. In terms of the best thing, I myself, like, I'm an outdoors person, and I just love the whole community is outdoors based. Like they love being outside, they love the land, and I was trying to experience that up there. So that was my best.
Yeah, I'd say like my best thing was just seeing things and forcing myself into a different atmosphere and just adapting to it and just seeing how I could be so flexible with those sorts of conditions. But wow, it was cold. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Great job.
Okay, moving on to our second presentation. This is 2024 annual report. Chief, are you online?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Maybe turn the volume up a little bit for him.
I think Jessica, unmute me or do something.
Oh, you're good now. We can hear you. And instead of seeing you, we're seeing this beautiful picture of Northern. Oh, they took it away.
No, thank you. Thank you. And it was certainly, it's always great to hear the experiences from Northern Exposure and to sit here and listen to how amazing that experience was for the officers. It is a great investment, and they do bring a lot back home, and they do share a lot. So thank you for your support of that as well. And in relation to the annual report, first of all, thank you. On behalf of the deputies and I and the incredible corporate communications team, it's our pleasure to formally present the 2024 annual report. I know that you've received it as a part of your board package, but I would like to first thank and acknowledge the corporate communications team for their countless hours that they put into this report each year, and it's evident that they did again this year, including Inspector Foley, Julie Rolfe, Brad Taylor, and others, as well as the work that goes into it behind the scenes by our analytic teams and many others who provided input, and the detail that you see in some of the work done by the entire service throughout 2024. I'll keep my comments brief this morning, as we had discussed ahead of time. Overall, crime is up slightly to a total of just under 16,000 crime incidents in 2024, an increase of 705 over 2023. And we as a service responded to just over 139,000 calls for service. All things considered, and you know, when we sit back and we know the trends across Ontario and we speak with chiefs and leaders in our neighboring jurisdictions, I am confident that we will continue to be the lowest in crime severity index and other measures that we're always so proud of compared to other jurisdictions, and that we will continue to be the safest large community. Within the crime statistics, good news is that we had 150 fewer violent crimes, a total of 602 last year, although we had 1,200 more property crimes for a total of about 12,500. And both of those are trends that we're also seeing elsewhere across the province and beyond the province. What this does impact, though, is our overall clearance rate. And for a variety of reasons, we've talked about this before with the board, violent crime is almost always solved at a higher rate than property crime. So as we see violent crime go down, which is a great thing, although we still have too much, and we have our home invasions and carjackings and robberies. It is a great thing that that's gone down, but it's sometimes the difference in clearance rates anywhere from 80% for violent types of crimes to 20 to 30% for property crime. And that's why we see a slight decrease in the overall clearance rate this year. Again, that's going to be something that repeats itself in our other jurisdictions and with our comparable services. And I think you'll probably recall last year we broke out auto theft because of the huge impact of auto theft on overall clearance rates. And in 2024, the impact is more from property crime in general and not all from auto theft. But within those numbers, there's also some good news, and that is auto theft is down now for the second year in a row. Although other property crimes, for example, retail theft, and we've talked with the board about that more often than not being organized crime related, has increased substantially. Auto theft, as I said, is down. It's also down again in the first 6 months of this year. And for those reasons, combining last year and year to date this year, I am confident that within the life of the current strategic plan, we will hit the goal of 50% reduction in auto theft. The report also contains and goes on to highlight a number of high-profile cases and projects which were successfully concluded in 2024. And I really think what that does for this report, with the amount of detail that's provided in relation to some of the work that's done by our teams, and very purposely, we and the corporate communications team have looked at auto theft and carjacking, sexual assault, for example, Project Woodlands, the historic sexual assault, human trafficking and drug trafficking, firearms, with so many illegal firearms seized through our projects, drug projects, intelligence projects, investigations, and roadside arrests often, child exploitation, hate crime, EDI, and training, and highlighting our EDI symposiums and different things. I think that all comes together and will really provide for our citizens a deeper understanding and knowledge of the incredible and often extremely complex work that's done by our frontline members and our investigative teams. All in all, I think the report provides an excellent overview of the service from a statistical perspective, as well as providing that other in-depth summaries of work that's done again. And I think that will give citizens who happen to read this report a better idea of just what this service is capable of doing. It's also designed, as the board will note, to highlight key areas of the board's strategic plan. And just a quick thank you to you, Chair Knoll, and to Fred for comments in relation to the strategic plan that allowed for some added comments in the annual report. It is the requirements of the new CSPA to have the annual report completed before June 30th. And what that means is we have to have the report done, as we do now, and it will be made public today. But we have to do that before we receive some of the detailed comparative statistics, which we don't yet have from Statistics Canada. Usually they come sometime, typically later July. But we will make those Stats Canada statistics publicly available when we receive them. And where information is not yet available at this time, we have commented in the report the reasons for that. Similarly, we have not completed an internal member survey yet in the strategic plan, but we're in the first 18 months of a 48-month plan, or the board's next community satisfaction survey, which are also elements of the strat plan, and those details will also be provided publicly when they have been completed and the results are available. Lastly, I'd just like to thank the board for all of your support and also the support of Regional Council, without the support of which many of these great results and this annual report would not be possible. So thank you very much, and open to any questions, and I'm sure the deputies are there to answer anything as well. But thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief. Members of the board, do you have questions for the Chief? Not seeing anything. Deputies, do you have any further feedback you want to add? action today is to approve the report. This report from the chief and service to the board. We will then be taking this to regional council and step in the process. Can somebody tell me how would the members of the public see this report? This is a leading question, but perhaps somebody would, on our website, is it available now? Paul, maybe?
Subject to the approval from the board, Mr. Chair, we will have the report available on our public website, and there'll be social media and a media release pushing it out.
Sure. So if somebody's watching on YouTube right now, it'd be haltonpolice.ca. They'll be able to find the report, and I'm sure that we'll have it up on the haltonpolice.ca website as well. So if you're watching and you're interested in more detail on this, I'll give you a little secret. It's actually as part of our board package, so if you want to see it before Paul gets it online, it's there now. But certainly have a look at this report, and if anybody has any questions in the public, let us know. We'll be happy to get those answers for you. So with that, can I get a motion to approve the annual report? Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Jean. All in favor? That's carried. Thanks, Chief. Where are you? You're in Frederick right now?
I am. I'm in Fredericton, so I'm just going back to some National Organized Crime Committee meetings as soon as I get back to the location of those meetings. So thank you very much. It's very productive time here, and it's amazing what's going on across the country and some of the federal changes that we have to continue to push for.
And we look forward to hearing what you can tell us when you come back. Thanks, and safe travels.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Okay, members of the board, I want to draw your attention to our next agenda items, which are our consent matters, or as we call them here, information reports. Number 3.1 is the District 1 District Facility Quarterly Update, and 3.2 is Regional Update on Community Safety and Wellbeing. These are information-only reports, but you're certainly welcome to ask any questions on either of these if you have questions. Not seeing anything. Samira, no comments about your new district?
Thank you.
And member, front bench, do you folks have any comments to augment these, or?
Other than we're excited to get into that new building. So we're still looking at, that late Q1, early Q2 of 2026, and I can tell you that the members that are assigned to one district who've been living in those other conditions will feel like princes and princesses. It's good.
A question.
I'm sure they're going to want to hear that they were just called princes and princesses, but we won't say anything anyway.
We can't say king.
Yeah.
Is there going to be like a transition period, like being a Milton resident, living right across from where the station is now? I'm going to miss the sirens, but like, is there going to be a transition period, or is it just going to be like we're all moving there, and then what's going to happen? Like, just for the residents of Milton, I know a lot of them have that, peace of mind that, okay, the station's here. So I want to reassure them, like, yeah, there's still going to be patrol cars. Doesn't mean that they're going to be at, on Steeles there, which is a bit further out of town. So if you can let us know if there's going to be a bit of an overlap, and then what is the process on the patrol cars during their shift, right?
So facilities will have it as a transition plan. A lot of it is IT based as well, because you need to turn on and turn off lights at the same time. And operationally, you will not see a difference. It's just the cars will be deploying from another area. But there is a plan to communicate that with the board to our communities to understand what it's going to look and feel like. And that will be presented to the board in advance of the turnover date. I don't know if Jeff, from a facility standpoint, has anything there.
No, that's basically as Rush says, it'll be staged. Obviously, we won't be able to do it just all in one shot, so it'll be a bit of a staging period like it was for this building. But that will be coming, those quarterly reports as well. That'll get added on as we get closer to that date.
And then, do you guys know what's going to go in that building after you guys move out? Has that been determined, or maybe, sorry, I could refer to my colleagues who might know.
I know we have some ideas.
Raj and I are opening a Tim Hortons there.
An after coffee shop. Yeah.
I do believe it reverts back to the region, so
Yes.
it's,
So I can comment on that.
Samira wants to set up a constituency office there.
Thank you for that, but that is something that I've brought up on regional council many times. It does go back to the region. Milton is definitely in the facility space, so we are really hoping that we can multi-purpose that building into something that benefits seniors for sure, because that area is designated for senior support. You have an Allendale, long-term supportive housing project coming there. We already have Allendale there. We have a senior center there. A lot of seniors do live in that, catchment area. So something that we're looking into, and, keep everybody posted if something comes out of this idea.
Thank you.
I want to pitch the idea of an escape room. Basically. Okay, 3.1 and 3.2 have been presented. Can I get a motion to approve the received? Those items, please. Samira, thank you. And Nana, second, thank you. All in favor? Those are carried. Moving on to 4.1, that's the accountability mechanism for the police response to survivors of sexual assault. This is another receive and review motion. Is there any comments? First of all, do you have any particular opening comments to this?
It's a continued partnership. I think right now they're looking at what the future of this looks like, and whether, not to get too far ahead, but whether that committee continues to exist as it is. As you see in the report, there hasn't really been any new issues identified that exist within policing itself, but there is in other places, so there's some conversation on how we can affect positive change in other sectors that aren't policing.
Samira, you have a question?
Just a comment or insight to share. I was at a presentation about the very same serious matter and topic, and it was brought to everybody's attention that yes, we give a lot of support when it comes to serious intimate partner violence and other instances. But it was highlighted that young men are often ignored when it comes to this topic. We have support for women and girls, rightfully so. They are the higher percentage who get affected by this, but young men are feeling very left out. And so just wanted to share that insight with you folks, because you're the ones who deliver these helpful resources for the community. Kind of see if that's your finding as well, and if there's something we can do specifically to address it.
Can you, Chair, can you elaborate on what part, like as victims, as offenders?
As victims, yes. As victims, many times the support is just not there. And I understand that there's challenges for young men to kind of, the perception is, oh, tough it out, but honestly, they feel like even if they want to grant help, they don't find the help that they need. So just relaying what I heard and making sure that we have our finger on the pulse.
Further comments or questions? I get a motion that's indicated in the report, please. Samira, do you want to, or Ingrid, you can do that. Seconded by Samira. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, we're moving on to 4.2. That is the Crime Stoppers Memorandum of Understanding. I'll start this one. I do want to first of all introduce to everybody present the new chair of the board of Crime Stoppers, Karen Rowley. Karen's here. Hello, Karen.
Hi.
And welcome, Shams, to another meeting. Thanks for being here as well. Do you have nobody else for Crime Stoppers?
No.
Okay. I will report on behalf of the committee, and I'll let Jessica chime in as well, because she did a lot of the legwork for this. But on behalf of the committee that was assigned to go away from the last meeting and work this out, we were successful. We appreciate the cooperation of Crime Stoppers. Deputy Kahar and his team were intimately involved too in sort of right-sizing that agreement to reflect the realities of what's changed since the last time that was negotiated, which I think was a certain period of time in terms of how the resources of the service are allocated to Crime Stoppers, and we have successfully integrated the Community Watch program into the MOU as well. So I'm personally very satisfied with what we've achieved, and I want to thank Crime Stoppers for their cooperation in getting to this point. Jessica, do you have anything to add since you were frontline on this?
Just thanks to everybody for their feedback. Thanks to Deputy Mahar and as well as Ken from legal for assisting with some of the language. And just that the folks at Crime Stoppers it's been a very collaborative process and easy to work with.
I think I can safely say, and I feel very encouraged by this process, I think we've opened a new chapter between the board and the Crime Stoppers and the Service and Crime Stoppers, and looking forward to what the future holds for some of the remittance programs that you folks have undertaken. And congratulations to Shams and the whole team on their recent human trafficking initiatives. That was really punching above your weight, I'll tell you. Very impressive program, and I know you got some accolades from your colleagues at the Crime Stoppers organization across Ontario, so well done. Okay, members of the board, you've had the opportunity to review this MOU, and I see that I have at least one question from Lisa.
Thank you, Chair. More of a statement. I just wanted to say this is a signal of good governance. So when we are engaging in these types of partnerships, to have them bound by an MOU with clear expectations and accountability when they're bolstered by financial investment is the position that we want to be seen in from a collaborative lens. So I'm happy that we've advanced to this stage, and do believe deeply that Crime Stoppers brings great value to our communities, and this is the way in which we can help to share that good news because it's scripted out for us in this document. So I'm very pleased with this. I was probably very unpleased a long time ago. So this is a marked advancement, and I think this is the standard that we should be setting going forward. So thank you for your collaboration here.
Well said. Ingrid, as a fellow committee member, do you have any feedback?
So I think it's very progressive in terms of having reached this, and the timing is appropriate now with Karen being in the role of chair. So it does open a new chapter in our history.
Very positive one. Okay, members of the board, are there any further questions or comments on this? Thank you. The recommendation has been moved, and we're going to that right now. I wasn't able to get into the board portal, so I'm working from PDF here. Is what I read the record what that recommendation is. Here we go. So the recommendation that Lisa has just made is that the memorandum of understanding, MOU, between Crime Stoppers and the Halton Police Board is approved. 2, that the Halton Police Board Chair sign the completed MOU, and that 3, $75,000 annual funding to commence in 2026 be funded from the Halton Regional Police Service annual budget for the 5-year term of the MOU. So that's the motion. Is there a seconder to that? Thank you, Ingrid. Further comments or questions? Samira.
Just a little comment. Karen, you're welcome, and you'll see an email coming in from me because I'm organizing an anti-bullying town hall very soon as school starts, so I would love to collaborate with you on that. Absolutely, because I know you can play a major role. I look forward to it.
Thanks, Samira. Okay, all in favor of the recommendation? Now, are you in favor? You're going to vote against? Okay. I just want to make sure, I just wanted to declare there was that's carried. Thank you, unanimously. So congratulations. Look forward to our ongoing collaboration.
Thank you very much.
Members of the service, any operational verbal today, Deputy?
2 for the board. Good morning. First of all, you've seen Tammy Sandy for the last couple of years here as a backbencher here for the office. A couple hours after your last board meeting, we were able to promote Tammy to inspector. So this is our newest inspector for the organization. Bench strength is strong, so I just want to congratulate. All right, correct, yeah. So she'll be moving on to reporting and overseeing communications and records with Superintendent Sue Biggs and under Jeff. So a good move and a good fit for her. The other item I wanted to just bring forward is I know we've deferred the recruitment presentation till August, and that would be a combined effort of what we're doing locally and what we're doing provincially. But you will see that on July 7th. We have the pleasure of releasing and launching the new provincial marketing and recruitment campaign for all police services in the province. It will be quite a significant media piece. We're doing our virtual launch so we can engage as many media outlets across the province. So I just want you to be aware of that the Halton team through OACP has had a significant contribution. We were able to use Halton actors, our facilities and infrastructure. So like some of the stuff that you see in the backdrop and some of the people are actually ours. that were used in the campaign. And then there's so much that was built in to ensure that we are the voice for all police services. So we invited a number of other services to come participate in the photo sessions, and we're building toolkits to equip over 50 services in the province to advance their recruitment activities. So don't be surprised that when you see July 7th, it'll be a bit of a splash, but we will loop back to you in August at the meeting to not only showcase that, but more importantly, to highlight the tremendous work that our recruiting bureau has been doing to attract talent to the organization.
Yeah, how will OACP measure the success of this campaign? Is there particular tracking QR codes or something that you're going to be able to track back and figure out if it's working?
So great question. That was baked into the whole vision here is you can't improve what you don't measure. So there are a number of metrics that we've built in. We actually kind of did a soft launch at the OACP conference on Tuesday. There are a number of pivot points. So we have a team from our consultant, Ernst Cliff Strategies, that will be monitoring and able to shift where our media buys are and our spends. And there's an obligation and accountability to report back to our collaborative working group to ensure that we're meeting the mark. So a very robust measurement piece built into it. And it's going to be a 5-month campaign. And then the OACP will own the collateral in perpetuity so that we can continue to use that year over year.
And the first cut of all applications go directly to Keith's inbox? Is that what I understand?
That's correct, yeah.
I understand you're reporting as an OACP past president, not as deputy chief.
One day new, yes.
Any further? Oh, I'm sorry, where's your question, Lisa?
Just a brief one. I just want to say thank you for alerting us to that very exciting announcement. Can you tell us if there's any linkage to the ESPA mandate where we have to have that diversity plan developed through the municipality and how that will inform the recruitment process?
So right from the beginning, often EDI is like attached after. We built this in the beginning, so not only did we lean into our OACP EDI committee, but a national framework and then our constable selection system. So understanding that we don't need the people that are already knocking on the door for policing, this campaign is not for them. This is for people that have never even thought that policing was a pathway for a service. So it's rooted significantly in it with the EDI lens. And then geographical considerations too, because it's not just a GTA-centric, although that's your biggest pool. Understanding the needs of small, mid-sized, and large services, and then the geography of those communities is such a significant part of the strategy. So you'll be impressed with what is delivered and how we're engaging potential candidates.
Thank you. That was the answer I was hoping for, and I'm glad we had a little opportunity to shine a light on it.
Sure. Thanks. Does that include, by the way, we just had this conversation about Indigenous police services. Does this include recruiting into those areas as well?
Yes, so we brought on the Indigenous Police Chiefs of Ontario as a consultant and a partner to our collaborative working group. So Kai Liu, the Executive Director, and Jeff Skye, who sits on our OACP committee, have been there from the very beginning. We actually have parts of the new subdomain website dedicated completely to the Indigenous perspective. We invited Indigenous services down for some of the benefits and collateral, so you can very much tailor this to the different needs of organizations. And as we see NAP specifically opting into the act and having to find 300 people, they were at the table from the beginning. So we're confident that it will meet their needs.
Further comments or questions on this? No. Anything else?
Just got two. I won't go into it too much because I know there was a media release on it, but I did want to draw attention and basically kind of give kudos to our people about you would have seen the human trafficking file that we did at August 8th. We did do a media release on it. What I wanted to point out is the massive planning that went into that. And the fact that we had a ton of partners, and I'll just mention that we had the Refugee Center, SAVIS, Elizabeth Fry, the Ministry of Labor, CBSA was involved. Just a ton of people to help the victims. We found they're living in deplorable conditions inside of this residence. I think there was actually 11 people in a 3-bedroom condo. So it's not, we don't typically see the labor files too often, but it's not to say that the problem's not there. So it was really an excellent job for our people, and VWAP was also involved as well. It was an excellent job for our people to get in there, save these people, and try and get them into a place of safety after that. So that was a great file. The other part was, and if the chief was here, I know he would do this, just wanted to point out that last week, Raj was the Speaker of Honor, the keynote speaker at the Ontario Police College as part of the OPC recruit ceremony. So he gave a great speech there that I was able to see along with Tammy. And then we just got back from the annual OACP conference where Raj again was the president, got to speak and organized an excellent 3-day conference, and had the opportunity to see him in action there. So just a kudos to him. He's finally free again a little bit. That's why he looks a little younger today. But just congratulations on behalf of us for Raj for everything done there, and just want to acknowledge that.
Is your term concluded now? Like you're done, or are you speaking? Is there like?
Thanks, Jeff. Wednesday, yesterday, I passed the torch to Mark Campbell from Strathroy Caradoc. So he is the new president, and I moved to the past president role. So I'm still on the board, plugged in. I just don't have to do as much travel and speaking, which is good.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm sure your contributions will be felt for a long time to come.
Thank you.
Yes, I just wanted to say about the human trafficking, it's wonderful that that happened because they come and go and constantly don't think anybody's watching them or they can do whatever they want. And just that alone will think, I'm not going to say anyone's going to stop, but I'm just saying it gives them the opportunity to think twice about what they're doing because it was such a great, situation what you did there. So I just want to thank you for that because we don't hear much about.
You don't hear a lot about the labor, and it's it's similar in the sense that people are having their identities taken away, they're having their wages taken away, they're being confined, and they're being placed in a scenario where they just don't feel like they have, especially if they're foreign to our country, they don't feel like they have an avenue, or they have obviously have no idea where to start looking for help. That's why one of the places I mentioned, I think it's called FCJ Refugee Center, and it's a charitable organization that helps in scenarios like this. But I don't know how, if you were living this life, you would ever go find that, right? So it's good that they can intervene. I'm sure there is, and I know there is, others out there as well. It's just a matter of making our way into those areas as well.
I will comment on that. As a local resident, somebody active in local law, this has had a deep and resounding impact on our community because August 8th was still, well, I don't know if it still is, but it's been a popular local restaurant. A lot of folks, celebrated anniversaries, birthdays, all sorts of things. This restaurant is very popular in town. And this has been a real wake-up call, I think, for a lot of people to really send home the message that these things are happening. And hopefully, while this is a tragedy, that it will be a learning experience for the community, and to embrace that philosophy, you see something, say something. For the victims and for other victims that may be still out there, that they have a better sense of peace to speak up or reach out for help. So congratulations on the job well done. I know the community is paying close attention to the social media likes and reads of this for city government. They're just beside themselves that this is happening and it knows. And I think it's a good opportunity for the service to seize on that communications opportunity to really say, this human trafficking thing just isn't something we talk about. It's something that the community is experiencing on a regular basis. Thank you. Lisa?
I just want to bring 2 points together and also just say it's not obviously in Burlington, so please don't visit our local restaurants. But I think this is a good wake-up call in conjunction with the annual report that is highlighting what is actually occurring in our communities, and for everyone to continue to be vigilant and to be part of the solution. So highlighting, I think it was very alarming to see the many photos of guns and drugs and confiscated items in conjunction with the investigations that are occurring and are moving through the
legislative process is really striking a note that we all need to come together and be active participants in our community safety. There's that same theme in our community. So things can be happening right in plain sight, and we all need to be more active observers and action takers in our community. Thank you for that work, and it was very alarming to the community. And I would make some additional comments at the end today about something else.
I appreciate that. Thanks for pointing out the issue about it's been more than one August 8th. And we shouldn't necessarily hold it against the corporate organization. I don't believe so. We should be careful because we're a fault service, but there are other August 8ths and any further, any more questions for the deputy? Deputy Mahar, do you have anything for us today? Okay. Mr. CGO, you have an update on our actually,
yeah, the MOU was approved by the board at the last meeting as for assistance agreements with 5 other services, and so that's done. I can come off Jessica, and the Crime Stoppers MOU has been approved as well. So those we're caught up on the public action registry. Was there anything from today, Jessica?
Yeah, absolutely. That means we can take July off. Not you. We need you there. Okay, can I get a motion, first of all, motion to receive, did I miss any motions to receive?
You're up to date. We're on action
So a motion to receive the action registry. Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Lisa. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, members of the board, that brings us to the conclusion of our, almost the conclusion of our public agenda. Before I look for a motion to go into a session closed to the public, I just want to see if there's any new business to come before the board this morning. Except I do have to, sorry, back up one thing. Receive public correspondence. One item of public correspondence. It's on your agenda. I get a motion to receive that, please. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Samira. All in favor? That's carried. Now, new business today, Lisa.
Okay, so Chair, stop me if I am out of line, but I think I want to use this position of privilege to talk about the people who are possibly subjects of intimate partner violence. And there's a very big news story that happened this week, and it is based in Hamilton. But it was Burlington resident Shalini Singh, and I think it's important sometimes that we take a minute to compassionately recalibrate ourselves into the work that all of the police services are doing, and realize that there are real people and real families affected by some of these things. And if I may, Chair, I'll just take a minute to talk a little bit about her. So Shalini Singh did grow up in Burlington. She came here in 1991 as a child with her parents, Anita and Dalip, and her older brother, Dalip Jr. Family settled in Ward 2, where she attended Central High School and Central Public School for her elementary. After high school, she attended Hopper College for social work and started a career in the mental health field as a crisis worker, eventually returning to school as an adult and getting a bachelor's degree in social work from Toronto Metropolitan University in 2023. She works for organizations such as Good Shepherd in Hamilton and more recently the Canadian Mental Health Association Policy Branch, both as a crisis worker. She dedicated her life to helping others. So she moved to Hamilton, her Burlington roots remained, and she visited and called her family often. December 10th, 2024, parents, after nearly a week of trying to find her, and her common law partner was reported missing. This would begin a 6-month-long search and investigation. And while the partner would be discovered in a nearby city by Hamilton police, Shalini remained missing and foul play was suspected, and her case was given to the homicide unit early on. Family and loved ones had hoped that she would be found alive, and that was only a hope. On June 23rd this week, Hamilton police announced her remains that were found in a Glanbrook landfill matched the DNA of Shalini Singh, and her common law partner was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and indignity to a body. While not yet convicted in a court of law, it was very clear there, it seems that Shalini Singh is yet another victim of intimate partner violence, and she was more than a statistic. She was more than a line in the report. She's the daughter and sister of my classmate and colleague tonight. I was only 4 years old at the
Anything further under new business? Okay, it's time for us to end our public meeting and go into a session closed to the public. I'll look for a motion to do that now, please. Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, Gav. Did I see your hand? Yeah. All in favor? That's carried. So what that means for those who are watching us live, we are going into a session closed to the public. That ends our YouTube coverage of our accounts of our board meeting today. As always, if you have any questions about anything that was discussed at a meeting today, never hesitate to reach out. You can always reach me at chair@haltonpoliceboard.ca or contact the board office, and our board operations manager will be happy to field your call or your request for information. We are your police board, and we're always open for your feedback and guidance. So with that, members of the board, I will now declare a recess until, let's go to 10:50, and then we'll reconvene in the session closed to public at 10:50. Meeting is done.
Get it, any